Since we were kids, Billy would fight for me and shield me from love letters. He promised that once we got to college, we'd be together. Everyone thought we'd make it all the way and get married. But then he started ditching me for other people, saying we were just childhood friends. Later, his roommate posted a picture of us holding hands on social media, and Billy got all red-eyed when he confronted me. I found it amusing, we're just pals. I don't need to report my dating life to you, right? On the 7th day of our silent treatment, Billy waited for me outside the dorm. He walked me to the classroom building and pulled out a big brown paper bag like he'd found treasure. It was from my favorite bakery, more than 30 kilometers from school, a distance even delivery services wouldn't go. The sun was just coming up, and there were still water droplets on the leaves of the mango tree behind Billy. I frowned a bit. It rained hard last night. Who asked you to drive out? Feeling sorry for me? He raised an eyebrow, sounding a bit cheeky. You've ignored me for days, making me come to you first. Last week, we had a spat, and I didn't reach out for a whole week. Neither did he, until today. I pursed my lips. Nobody asked you to. I turned to leave, and he caught my arm. I want to, all right? He blinked those charming eyes and gave an exaggeratedly sad look. He knew exactly how to get to me. Just knowing he hates rainy days but drove through one to get me my favorite treats was enough to melt my heart. I can't eat all this, am I feeding pigs? I grumbled quietly, but took the heavy paper bag. It was my signal to him that I was forgiving him. Our childhood connection meant he understood right away. I brought enough for your entire dorm. He went further, brushing a stray hair off my face. It's my thank you to them for looking after my Bella. I turned my head, a bit awkward. Who says I'm yours? Whoever gets shy. My ears warmed up, so I stayed silent. Billy moved a bit closer, his tone gentle. Are you still mad? I'll pick you up after class. He caught a moment to ruffle my hair, and I didn't dodge this time. I softened, even my voice. Don't leave me hanging again. I won't. He took off his watch and handed it to me. I'm going to play basketball, so hold on to this for me. It was the watch I gave him for his birthday last year. He winked. That's a very important watch, take good care of it. The morning sun felt so gentle, warming me inside too. I smiled at Billy and nodded. Got it. I'll wait for you after class. With the bell ringing for class, I said goodbye to Billy and headed to my classroom. I didn't get far before running into my roommates, Jane and Kathy. Oh, Billy's really stepping up with the pickups and breakfast, Jane teased, winking. Seems like you gotta groom them early. Bella, are you and Billy officially together? Jane was cut off by Kathy speaking up suddenly. Billy said you're just childhood friends, so, She didn't finish, but it felt like she did. Kathy and I never really got along. She's our dorm leader, but I usually heard important news through other roommates instead of directly from her. She didn't seem to like me, but would often end up with the same things I had. I never understood why, but last month I figured it out when Billy and I ran into her outside our dorm. She tripped, and Billy helped her up. Her blushing thanks said it all. Lots of people like Billy, and now I knew she was one of them. Jane had been linking arms with Kathy, and at those words, she frowned and pulled away. Kathy, that's kinda weird. Why'd Billy specifically tell you that? Are you really close with him? We're alright, Kathy said, shrugging. We're in the same group in our department, and it came up randomly. He doesn't mention Bella much. I had heard Billy talk about Kathy before, saying she was shy and awkward around people. He even complained that she couldn't handle making a simple event poster despite being in the arts and culture department. I thought it was normal, not everyone picks up skills easily. So I had said, why don't you help her out? You're on the same team, aren't you? Billy had looked nearly annoyed. Troublesome. He doesn't like troublesome folks. He's turned down plenty of quiet, reserved types before. I didn't think Kathy would be any different to him. So, I decided not to engage. But Kathy wouldn't let up, pulling at me. Billy really is a good guy. Last Wednesday, I couldn't get a ride after tutoring, and he came to pick me up. I was taken aback for a moment. Last Wednesday, Billy had cancelled on me. He said he wanted homemade mango pastries, so I went home to make them, spending hours in the kitchen. I braved the rain to deliver them to his dorm, but he wasn't even there. His friend Calvin ended up taking them downstairs and teasing me, saying, "Only a fool would deliver in the rain." Kathy's voice pulled me back to the present. Don't get me wrong. Billy helped me, and I'm just concerned for my group mate. Don't worry, I won't. I shook off her grip and asked, "Your group mate bought bread for you. What flavor do you like?" She hesitated, then said, "Red bean." Oh. I put the bag away. He didn't buy that. I'm allergic to red beans. Toward the end of class, Jane finally came over, having held back all morning. "Girl, do you think someone's trying to steal your man?" She made a mocking face, mimicking Kathy's tone. "I'm just concerned for my group mate." "Everyone knows you and Billy are close," she added, eye-rolling. What's she on about, trying to snatch her roommate's guy? Billy and I being childhood friends was no secret. After our college entrance exams, we even gave a joint interview where Billy said, "Wherever she goes, I go." That clip got popular online, so when I gave the freshman representative speech in our first year, I was recognized right away. Everyone just assumed Billy and I were a thing. But we weren't together, even though we made a promise once. Some promises, when they expire and go unmentioned, seem hard to bring up again at the right time. But I kept thinking, just wait a little longer, have some faith in each other. By afternoon, it started raining again. I waited under the school building for almost an hour. Billy didn't show, didn't reply to texts either. Once again, he stood me up without a word. I checked the time, and called him for the 4th time. Each ring of the phone made my heart sink just a bit more. He picked up just before it went to voicemail. "Bella?" He paused. "I can't pick you up today, sorry." Here we go again. He makes plans with me and then bails without saying anything. I couldn't help but remember what Kathy said, that Billy ditched to go see her last time. A wave of odd feelings hit me. "Billy, you were the one who said you'd pick me up today. Why do you keep standing me up?" I guess my accusatory tone was obvious because he huffed on the other end. Billy never had the greatest temper. He always acted tough with others. But it seemed like this was the first time he showed irritation with me. I softened my tone unconsciously. "Billy, you promised." "I really forgot." He sighed. "Tomorrow, I promise I'll be with you, alright?" His tone was full of helplessness, making me feel like I was being unreasonable. I choked back my words, "But today is." "Billy, how do I work this seat belt?" I heard a car door open and a familiar voice in my ear. It was Kathy. She skipped class early to go tutor. The rain poured harder, and I stopped listening to Billy, not really hearing much anymore. I had intended to remind him that today is the anniversary of my mom's death, and he's been with me every year. But this year, he had clearly forgotten. I felt a strange fear inside, like something I couldn't grasp onto. I gripped my phone tightly and hung up in a messy rush. The ringtone cut through the rain soon after. I don't know how long passed before the screen dimmed. A message from Billy popped up. "Don't be mad, I really have something urgent. I'll explain tomorrow. Calvin's in the area, I asked him to pick you up." I blinked in surprise and started typing. I didn't want to accept this, but footsteps approached. Calvin, dressed in black, hurried over under an umbrella. I glanced at my phone. It had only been 7 minutes since Billy sent that message. In no time, Calvin stood at the foot of the steps. "What are you zoning out for? Come on." His clear yet lazy voice yanked me back to a summer filled with cicada songs. Calvin transferred from the next city during sophomore year. After a single monthly exam, he became my desk mate. Unlike typical TV dramas, our relationship was only forged through shared studying. This month, I'd be in first place, next month he'd stay up late to surpass me. Calvin was competitive and sharp-tongued, but his math skills were top-notch. I swallowed my pride to ask for help, to which he sneered, maybe if you spent less time with Billy next door, you wouldn't mess up these simple problems. I thought we'd continue like this. Until 2 months before college entrance exams, he handed me a yearbook with just a single button inside. It was the one closest to his heart on his school uniform. In a daze, I felt this guy was trying to mess with my focus to steal my top spot. Don't think this means I'll go easy on you and give you valedictorian, I joked as I tried to hand it back. I'm just waiting to be your second place, Calvin said lazily, putting it back in front of me. When I attempted to return it, he grabbed my wrist. Calvin, you know I didn't need to finish. He understood. I know, I'm going back to prepare for the exams tomorrow. He let go and stubbornly left the yearbook with me, more serious than ever. Bella, this is as far as I go. You have to allow those who aren't childhood sweethearts their own youth too. Calvin packed his last book, flashed a smile. 2 tiger teeth subtly visible. If you don't want it, just toss it. Good luck with the exams. Back then, I thought we wouldn't meet again. He'd mentioned loving southern cities, the north was too dry. Yet here he was, staying in the north and becoming Billy's roommate. Calvin's car was spotless, smelling faintly of sea salt and pine. He fired up the engine but only turned his head to me. I figured he was waiting for me to say something. Sorry, I didn't know Billy asked you, made you come out here. Calvin blinked, calm and straightforward, no need to apologize for him, I'm not here for his sake. Calvin was so direct I was left speechless. Lost in thought, a shadow fell over me, and the salty scent of pine overwhelmed my senses. Instinctively, I lifted my hand to block my face, realizing Calvin had stopped at a polite distance. Then I heard the sound of the seatbelt clicking into place. What's up? Calvin seemed to chuckle softly. I thought you were going to kiss me. I thought you were going to hit me. I awkwardly lowered my hand, noticing the rain outside was starting to pour harder. But he was driving away from the school. Where are we going? I asked. Aren't we heading to Bayshore Cemetery? He had entered it into the GPS. Isn't it always this day every year? I was taken aback. How do you know? Calvin didn't answer directly, just smoothly turned the steering wheel onto the beltway. Back in high school, when filling out forms, I saw it by accident. Every year you take a day off and come back the next day totally out of it, fiddling with a necklace. The necklace is a memento from my mom. I had never told Calvin about this, nor imagined he would notice. Maybe seeing me stunned for too long, Calvin gently patted my head. You don't show up on the agreed date, she'd be upset. When we left the cemetery, night had fallen, and the rain began to ease up. Calvin leaned against the car window smoking. Seeing me approach, he hurriedly put it out. I was surprised. The smart guy smokes? Learned it senior year, trying to get number 1. It was stressful. Calvin raised an eyebrow, you have no idea how hard you are to catch up to. Because of that line, I didn't dare speak on the way back. Even after Calvin added, I mean academically. While mindlessly playing on my phone, I saw Kathy's post pop up. It was a picture of her making a wish with her eyes closed, in front of an intricate pink swan cake. From the same place Billy got me mine in the morning. First time anyone remembered my birthday, I feel so blessed. I didn't like the post, just closed the app. Headed back to my messages. No new messages, no missed calls. I stifled my bitterness and turned off my phone. A little later, the car stopped in front of the dorms, and I thanked Calvin. I'll treat you to dinner another day. No need. Calvin tapped the steering wheel, dismissing the idea. Don't want to dine with someone who's got their heart set on someone else. Oh. I was at a loss for words, so I undid my seatbelt to leave. Just as I opened the door, I felt a grip on my arm. A warm, dry hand cupped my eyes, and I heard the door close. The next moment, Calvin's voice was almost in my ear. "Is that all? Won't you try inviting me again?" The scent of sea salt filled the small space. Despite the closeness, I felt only a protective kindness. I tapped his hand. "Don't cover it, I can see." Not far away, under a big tree, Kathy was hugging Billy. Billy was holding something, a square pink box, probably a birthday cake. He didn't hug back, but didn't push her away either. Just before Calvin covered my sight, Kathy had gone on tiptoes to kiss him. I blinked in the darkness, tears unexpectedly welled up. Calvin hurried to catch them with his hand, grabbing tissues with the other. I focused on the lines on his palm, my vision blurring gradually. Not sure how long it had been, but he stayed in that position. I found it amusing and slowly pushed his hand away, changing the subject. "Calvin, your lifeline is really long." Wiping my tears, he spread his hand before me. "Really? Then can you also check my love line, see if romance is coming my way?" When I got back to the dorm, Kathy was sharing cake. Her face was flushed and there was an undeniable excitement. Barely half a day gone and she seemed so much brighter. She ran over to me as if waiting all day. "Bella, it's my birthday today, but the cake is red bean flavor, so I can't share with you." She blinked, hinting, "It wouldn't suit you, no need to force it." Truth be told, I'm not great at handling these situations. Juggling for a guy, all in silence because there's no stance to take. Because I'm only Billy's childhood friend. Suddenly I really disliked Billy. We had agreed, once in college we'd be together. I also hated myself. Dropping hints about that promise, getting no response. Stupidly sticking around him, drinking poison with a smile in the space between friendship and something more. Ignoring Kathy, I washed up and went to bed. Barely laid down, and the curtain opened. Kathy stood there with a provoking smile. "Bella, could you ask Billy what he likes? He spent my birthday with me, I want to get him a gift." The harsh white light from outside shone in, giving me a headache. I pulled her hand off my curtain, snapping, "He's into those Pac Surrey sneakers lately, can you afford them?" Kathy froze, eyes welling up instantly, and rushed back to her bed. Seeing her on the verge of tears gave me a sense of satisfaction, but mostly self-loathing. Why was I turning into this bitter person because of Billy? I didn't sleep the whole night. Spent the entire weekend bedridden. When Jane came in, she dumped a bunch of stuff on my desk. "Billy left these for you. He's waiting downstairs." Before she finished speaking, Kathy was already on the balcony. Unlike her reserved manner from that day, she wasn't hiding it anymore. Jane climbed the ladder and slipped into my curtain. "What's he done to you now? Don't tell me your home got invaded." I wiped my swollen eyes, leaned on Jane's shoulder, and shook my head. "Maybe." Jane patted my head. "Why cry over this? Goodbye means next time you'll find someone even better." Billy's message was still on my phone. He's been texting a lot these days, and I hadn't replied. The latest was from 2 hours ago. "I'm here to pick up my watch. Are you not going to give it back?" Who takes back something they've gifted? I fought off a headache and got up to wash up. As I headed downstairs, I overheard 2 girls whispering on their way up. They thought they were being quiet, but I heard every word. "Billy's been waiting downstairs for ages, even the dogs walking by look a bit awkward. Guess pretty girls have their tempers." As I stepped out of the dorm, Billy came over, frowning. "Miss Thing, could you not ignore people all the time?" Here's your watch." I cut him off, handing it over. But he didn't take it. "If you don't, I'll toss it." I started towards the trash can but Billy blocked me. "Come on, don't. Bella, I can explain about the other day. Kathy had an emergency." "What's that got to do with me?" My headache was worsening, and my tone wasn't pleasant. Billy looked incredulous. "She's your roommate, how can you be so cold?" His expression and tone felt so foreign to me. Like not celebrating a roommate's birthday made me a criminal. Billy, the department's meeting soon. Mind if I join? Kathy had come down at some point. Billy looked over my shoulder at her, sounding indifferent. Sure, wait for me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the message on message. When are you taking me out for dinner? From Calvin. I typed back, your choice. Calvin replied quickly, well, check your right side then. I paused, looking towards the dorm building on my right. Calvin waved at me, holding his phone and smiling. Then quickly dropped the smile when Billy looked over too. I was about to head over when Billy grabbed me, an odd tone in his voice. Did you come down to meet with Calvin? I shook off his hand. So what if I did? Billy just laughed. Go on then, it's not like you like him anyway. His confidence made it seem like I'd always wait for him. But Billy, I really don't want to like you anymore. Calvin had quickly picked up some food. When he returned, he had a small bag with him. Fever meds, pain relievers, see which one you need. He asked the owner for a cup of warm water, placing it in front of me. Felt my forehead, popped out a pill. Reduces fever and pain. Take it. I blankly took it and swallowed it with water. How did you know I was sick? Calvin filled another cup, watched me drink it before eating his food. Check your eyelids drooping so low. And your forehead's hot enough to fry an egg. Was it really that obvious? How could Billy hold my hand and not notice a thing? Sorry, Calvin, used you as an excuse just now. He sat close enough, he must have heard it too. Calvin looked up at me. As long as you don't avoid me, use all you want. We locked eyes, and I remembered that day in the car. Calvin insisted on reading my palm. Someone once told me that a clear love line without forks leads to great love. So that's what I told him. Calvin raised an eyebrow. So my love will have a happy ending? I nodded. Curfew was nearing, and I was saying goodbye when he locked the door. Calvin leaned closer. You said you'd take me to dinner. When? But you said. I changed my mind. I paused. Why? He leaned over and unlatched my seatbelt, his eyes locked on mine. Because some people don't appreciate who I cherish, so I've decided to take my chance. He leaned in a bit more and I noticed his ears turned red. And because the person I like said my love will have a happy ending, so I'm giving it another shot. His words were ambiguous, but I understood them completely. So I fled. Later, Calvin sent me 2 messages. Scared you? You ran away so fast. Why be scared? Liking you isn't anything out of the ordinary. I never replied until today. Calvin scratched my arm gently, persisting. Not asking you to like me right away, just don't avoid me, can you? A light sensation spread from my arm over my whole body. Can you? Calvin tilted his head, not willing to let it go. I conceded. I wasn't avoiding you anyway. Oh, good then. He smiled, his gaze warm and gentle. Billy and I were at a standstill. He explained that Kathy was tutoring and her client's family got handsy. It was urgent, so he went to help. I didn't reply and Billy stopped reaching out. Their department was busy with the graduation event. I learned this from Kathy's social media posts. She always shared things about Billy, never blocking me. Like Billy's silhouette during rehearsals, his hand during meetings. People in the comments nudged. Oh, special moment for someone there. Others screenshot her posts, asking me what was going on between Billy and Kathy. They always thought Billy and I were a couple. I just kept repeating, we were never together. Then ended the conversations quickly. I'm really busy too. While others are still working on their midterms, I'm already prepping for finals. Apart from classes, I spend all my time in the library. Calvin is always by my side. His reasoning? He says he can only fully focus when he's sitting next to me. It feels like high school again, where zoning out for even a minute would mean getting left behind. For the sake of my GPA, you can't just kick me out, right? Not that I'd ever send him away. So, we became study buddies, just like in high school. One day, after finishing a problem, I paused to take a break and got a new message on my phone. It was from Calvin. Look to your left. I found it odd. He was right next to me, so why message? Turning to look, I met his gaze. Calvin was resting his head on the table, blinking slowly. The sunset was pouring in through the window, casting a glow on his hair. His head looked soft and shiny, like it was wrapped in light. Turns out, he wanted me to see the sunset. My heart skipped a beat, and I handed him a grapefruit candy, slightly flustered. He popped it in his mouth and immediately sat up straight, seriously getting back to tackling problems. It made me laugh for real. After studying that day, Calvin walked me back to my dorm. As soon as I opened the door, I saw my stuff scattered all over the floor. A crystal ball, a gift from Billy, was shattered. The culprit was standing there, unashamed, with teary eyes accusing me. Why did you report me to Professor Chen for skipping class? Now he's not letting me take the finals. I silently hung my bag up, picked the crystal ball off the floor, and tossed it in the trash. Then, with a cold expression, I went over to Kathy's desk and trashed all her things. Grabbing her collar, I coldly warned. Kathy, if you have issues, get them treated. Ignoring you doesn't mean I don't have a temper. How many classes have you skipped? How many assignments haven't you turned in? How many hours did you fake on volunteer work? Don't you know yourself? Mess with me again, and I will report you to the faculty. I'm usually not that hot-headed, but this was the first time I got that angry in our dorm. Kathy stood there stunned, stammering, You're bullying me. But under my glare, she went quiet, tears in her eyes. I had a bad feeling this wasn't over. And of course, a couple of days later, a post popped up on the school forum. An anonymous user talked about being bullied by a roommate. The bully was a top student in the business school, one who gave the freshman opening speech. The details were so specific, it was nearly calling me out by name. In the comments section, people who didn't know the truth were all condemning me. 2 other anonymous users claimed to have seen luxury cars picking me up, claiming I was selling myself and only a fake academic. They even added some so-called photo evidence. I uploaded a car registration and a family photo in response. The car? Owned by me. The supposed rich person? My dad. While the post was still buzzing, Billy came to find me. In the library, he stormed up to me, pulling me up without explanation. Why did you report Kathy? Don't you know she's a poor student? If she fails, she'll lose her scholarship and awards. The library was quiet, but Billy's voice wasn't, making everyone glance up. I felt like a monkey in a circus for a moment. It was beyond embarrassing. I forced myself to calm down, pulling Billy out of the library. At least I wouldn't disrupt others studying. Outside, Billy asked again, but his tone was softer. You don't like Kathy, but still. It's because she's a poor student, she shouldn't be reported when she's wrong? I cut him off. Kathy's been skipping classes more than just once or twice, and she always freeloads on group projects. This isn't a secret in our year. Yet she keeps getting scholarships, fair, right? Billy opened his mouth but couldn't respond. He'd told me before that he hated people who stole others' hard work. Finally, he said, but it shouldn't have been you to report her. I found it funny. He completely missed my point. At some point, communicating with Billy became so difficult. I didn't want to explain more to him, but I didn't want to take the blame for nothing either. She gets the 3rd-class scholarship, while I'm 1st class every year. I don't care enough to report her. Is it because she and I were close? He frowned. She said you isolated her in the dorm, broke her things. I saw the photos. Billy explained, exasperatedly, I'm not with her. Hearing Billy say this, I was a bit skeptical. After knowing someone for so long, he could redefine me based on a few words from someone else. It was at that moment I felt thoroughly fed up with Billy. Do you believe everything she says? I coldly interrupted him. The unfamiliar chill in my voice left Billy momentarily speechless. Billy, can't you think and judge for yourself? Do I come across like one of those girls from high school who had a crush on you and would backstab others over jealousy or bully roommates? Billy froze for a moment, his pupils shrinking, like he'd remembered something. His face turned slightly pale. He remembered, I was the one who was bullied because of him. At that age, being close to Billy seemed like my original sin. Trash was thrown into my desk, and chalk dust was put in my water cup. In our strict high school, they only dared to do this much. I didn't pay much attention. Billy wasn't in my class, so I always got news late. Instead, Calvin got mad. In front of everyone, she dumped chalk dust back on the girl's head. Things got a bit out of hand at that time, and Calvin was asked to publicly apologize in front of the grade. While Billy looked stunned, I received a message from Calvin. I'm behind the pillar in the hall. Reply when you need me. Jane chimed in too. She said an anonymous user got their ID revealed overnight. Kathy, who spread rumors in the comments, turned out to be behind it. Crying about being a victim but busy spreading lies. Everything she said lost credibility. No one's dumb. The comments completely flipped sides. I didn't bother with Billy's reaction. Turned off my phone, took a deep breath. Billy, I'm not that free, and you're not that important. I was about to leave in a hurry, but Billy blocked my way. He stared at me intently, sounding urgent. What do you mean? Not that important? You like me, don't you? How could I have never liked you? When kids in kindergarten laughed at me for not having a mom, Billy chased them away. When a boy in high school tried to make me his girlfriend, Billy stood up for me. He was there on every holiday when I missed my mom. So even when he said he wanted to date me in college but then told other girls we weren't together, I waited quietly for him to remember our promise. No matter how many times he left me, all he had to do was something small, and I'd forgive him. Even in every fight, where it seemed he was comforting me, I was the one walking on eggshells to not push too much. But starting from my mom's death anniversary, I couldn't hold on anymore. I couldn't stand becoming someone I hated because I liked someone. Billy. I looked at him, words firm, tone steady. From when you left me that day to be with Kathy on her birthday, letting her kiss and hug you, I stopped liking you. She was bullied that day. Billy knitted his brows, sounding desperate like he was explaining. Her mom died giving birth to her, so she never had birthdays. Do you remember it was also the day my mom died? It was the hardest moment of my life too. Billy turned pale, looking like he might collapse. Bella, he lowered his head, I'm sorry. I didn't respond, ready to leave. Billy tried to grab my wrist again. I swiftly dodged, heading straight into the library without looking back. Walking fast, texting Calvin as I went. Didn't notice and missed a step on the stairs. Just when I thought I'd fall, an arm came out from behind, catching me at the waist. Fell into a light embrace with a faint scent of sea salt and pine. Calvin let out a relieved breath. Good thing my reflexes are quick. I stared at the sweat on his brow, remembering back in high school. That girl tripped me after dumping chalk dust on me, and Calvin caught me just like that. Then he dumped the chalky water on her head. When the teacher asked why he did that to a girl, Calvin just coolly said, she was disturbing my study. Though he was never that mean. How could I be dumb enough to accept that excuse and take his silent support for granted? Why dumbfounded? Calvin waved a hand in front of my face, moved by just a little pull. Calvin, was it you who made the forum IDs go public? I vaguely remember he had skills in that area. Calvin raised a brow and made a sound, oh. You're gonna get called by the school board. Who casually hacks into the school forum to change the system? No worries, they can't catch me. Calvin smirked, giving me a mischievous and proud look. Feeling a jolt of affection, I hugged him. Thanks, hero. Calvin stiffened up. After a while, he grumbled, don't mention it. For a long time after, Billy didn't show up again. Kathy was quiet in the dorm too. After the last exam, I heard some news. Turns out, no one reported Kathy. The finance and economics professor was related to Kathy's tutor's family. She got caught stealing from them and got fired. Jane shrugged. There was surveillance footage, though the family didn't hold it against her. With her frequent absences and not submitting assignments, the professor knew about her, so she wasn't allowed to take the exam. I felt a moment of hesitation, remembering Billy's claim about Kathy being bullied by the dad there. But I didn't care who was lying anymore. It didn't matter. At the graduation party, Jane and I were handing out flowers to the seniors. Passing by backstage, I overheard Billy and Kathy arguing. Billy, why have you been avoiding me? I don't want to hang out with liars. Billy snorted. Kathy, I can't believe you played me. All that victim talk, bullying, I was stupid enough to stand up for you, even questioning Bella about it. So, you don't like me anymore? When did I ever say I liked you? Billy sounded irritated. I just felt sorry for you. Kathy was on the verge of tears. You like Bella, don't you? I didn't stop, just walked away. It doesn't matter who Billy likes now. He never knew how to appreciate someone's feelings anyway. Billy started bothering me non-stop. Acting like nothing happened, texting me, waiting outside my dorm. Jane said seeing him down there felt like some weird loop. This was Billy's usual trick. Before, if he stood there, I'd run over. But now, I wanted to avoid him. I had nowhere to hide, so I planned to pack up and leave. Right after packing, I got a call from a senior I was close with from the student council. Bella, we're having a farewell party for a few seniors tonight, you should come too. It's all familiar faces, even Billy might be there. I'm also part of the student council, more of a background contributor. I haven't attended many meetings, but the senior never complained and even gave me full marks. So I didn't hesitate much, sure. It was my first time at a student council dinner, sitting quietly in the corner watching them play Truth or Dare. Hoping the bottle wouldn't land on me. Apparently, I got lucky, but Billy wasn't as lucky. First was a truth round. Is there anyone you like here? Billy glanced at me and said, yes. Everyone started teasing me. This was the first time Billy admitted he liked me in front of everyone. But there was none of that usual joy in it for me. I felt troubled instead. My first instinct was to look at another council background member in the room. Calvin was sitting far away, quietly locking eyes with me through the crowd. Just looking at him made my heart race. Billy quickly caught my look. He followed my gaze, looking surprised. Then a new message popped up on my phone. From Calvin. A crying puppy emoji. I couldn't help but chuckle and replied with a question mark. The game continued, and when the bottle landed on Billy for the third time, he dared. Confess to the person you like. With earlier rounds setting the stage, everyone knew what was coming. Before I figured it out, Billy was already standing in front of me, pushed by the crowd. He pressed his lips together, looking somewhat nervous. Just as Billy was about to speak, the entire room plunged into darkness. A power cut? Phones, flashlights, someone lighted up. Trying to find phones in the dark was hilarious. Someone go ask about it. In the midst of the chaos, a warm hand grasped my wrist. The familiar aroma of cold pine closed in, and Calvin's voice whispered directly in my ear. Wanna come with me? Despite the pitch black, my heart started pounding uncontrollably. Of course. Before I could answer, Calvin's hand slid down to hold mine, fingers lacing together tightly. He led me away with an uncompromising force for a nighttime escape. On the bench by the campus lake. Across the lake, the guitar club was casually strumming together. Calvin and I sat quietly listening, neither saying a word, our hands never parting. A phone ringing disrupted the eerie harmony. It wasn't hard to guess who was calling. I wanted to mute it, trying to pull away our clammy hands. "Calvin, can you let go first?" Before I could finish, Calvin's breath enveloped me. Instincts kicked in faster than thoughts, and I closed my eyes. It felt like a gentle leaf touched my lips, a soft and light kiss. There he stayed, not crossing any lines. Until I let out a breath, and Calvin deepened the kiss, passionately exploring. The phone kept ringing persistently, but Calvin took it from my pocket and silenced it. I don't know how long passed before I could breathe again. "Who told you to kiss me?" My voice was a little lacking in confidence. "Didn't you agree?" "What?" Calvin chuckled softly, pressing his forehead against mine, his thumb brushing the corner of my lips. His deep voice mingled with the songs from across the lake. "I thought we just ran away together." Thump. Thump thump. My heart raced faster, like it was about to leap out, making it impossible to ignore. Calvin gazed at me for a long time, then slowly spoke. "Bella, would you consider liking me?" Across the lake, an alumnus was singing a song, hitting the line knowing you have a hard time expressing too. At that moment I realized, Calvin is actually good at expressing himself. Whether it was the closest button to heart back in high school, every honest like since we reconnected, or now. He's straightforward and passionate. How could anyone turn down such a sincere puppy? I didn't want to decline. So I leaned in, sure. Calvin and I started dating. Calvin wasn't too happy about us parting soon after getting together. He was even more unhappy about me having dinner with Billy's family. Can I stake my claim? It's okay if not. Just asking. Calvin drove me home, holding onto my finger carefully, not letting me leave the car. I couldn't help but laugh. "Calvin, this isn't like you," I teased. Where was that cool, sharp-tongued desk mate from back then? Calvin raised an eyebrow, quickly accepting what I said. "Yeah, now I'm in the Calvin's secret crush comes true phase, so I'm pretty smug." He hooked his finger around mine. "So, is it working?" I didn't answer, just took a picture of our hands and sent it to his phone. That pic soon showed up on Calvin's social media, along with a side profile shot of me. I was in my high school uniform in that shot, looked like it was screenshotted from some video. Just as I was gonna ask where that photo came from, Billy burst into the room. He tossed his phone on the table and pulled me outside without a word. "Are you and Calvin together?" His lips were tight, his voice was almost demanding. Since the day he confessed, I hadn't seen Billy. Calvin and I disappearing from the party made the answer really obvious. Billy's pride wouldn't let him keep coming back to me. So I thought it was all in the past. When we met again, given our family's relationship, I thought we could be normal. But before I could speak, Billy frowned and asked, "Bella, are you getting back at me?" I found it funny. Of course not. I'd never do that to Calvin. My quick and firm reply left Billy stunned. Our folks inside were wondering what was going on. I turned to head back in. "Bella." Billy called, his voice defeated. If it weren't for Kathy, would things be different? I paused for a moment but didn't answer. There are no ifs in life. When the list for graduate school recommendations came out midway through the break, both Calvin and I made it with straight A's. Billy's grades weren't the best, but he should have had no problem. Our school usually has a high recommendation rate. But he flunked a few subjects last semester and got bumped off the list. Even the project team he was part of with a professor wouldn't take him back. I figured it wouldn't bother him much, he had plenty of options. But when I dropped something off at his house that day, I saw Billy kneeling in the side room. His dad didn't notice me. He went on scolding him coldly. "You've never been better than Bella at anything, always in your uncle's shadow. In high school, you barely scraped in with endless tutoring. Now you can't even secure grad school. What face can I show?" That's when I realized Billy's home life wasn't as happy as I'd thought. His life wasn't as easy as I imagined. I left quietly after putting down the package. Just before school started, our high school homeroom teacher retired. He organized a reunion for the 2 classes he taught. It was at that reunion that I saw Billy again. He was from the other class. He messaged me asking if I wanted to join him. I said no. I picked a seat far from Billy. Just as I was about to sit, our homeroom teacher called me over. "Bella is my star student, must sit next to me," he said with a sigh. "Too bad Calvin isn't here, otherwise I'd have my 2 guardians." The whole room hooped right after he spoke. Everyone but our teacher had seen Calvin's post announcing we were official. Embarrassed, I covered my face. Our class president came in laughing. "Who said Calvin's not here? No way the top couple would be apart." The teasing got louder. I couldn't believe my eyes as I turned. The Calvin who 5 minutes ago claimed to be playing games in a nearby city was now leaning against the door, grinning at me. The conversation quickly shifted once he sat down. Someone asked how Calvin managed to win me over. Others joked if we had a secret thing back in school. Someone, drunk and unfiltered, even asked if I used to be closest to Billy. I smiled and explained, we grew up together. Calvin, who'd had a bit to drink, leaned on my shoulder, acting all cute. "If a crush counts as dating, I've been in love for so long," he said. Everyone laughed, except Billy, who looked out of place. After the reunion, I took a quick bathroom break. Coming out, I found Billy smoking by the door, looking lost. I walked past him. His voice suddenly cut in, "You saw me that day at home, didn't you? I've always been less than you. That's why they punish me this way." He laughed at himself, voice hoarse. "Bella, you liking me was my one and only ace, and I blew it." He stepped closer like he'd grab my arm. I instinctively backed away, bumping into Calvin behind me. "What you lost, I cherish," Calvin said, tightening his hold on me. "Back off, Billy. Keep away from my girlfriend. Our ride's almost here, we're heading out." I turned with Calvin, not looking back. Never look back. Outside the hotel, nothing, no car in sight. So we just started walking, hand in hand, aimless in the night. The streetlights made our shadows stretch long, then short, like 2 little old men. Calvin brushed his thumb over my hand, a bit tipsy, playful. "Stranded in North City, huh? What are we gonna do?" I squeezed his hand and shook it playfully, smiling at him. "Take you home."